Shabbat shalom, friends. Anyone know the Parsha? Shabbat Shira, Parshat Beshalach. All right, and you shall go. In our narrative of Exodus, we made the escape from slavery, still kind of in Egypt, and the Song of the Sea. And it's going to happen. And by the way, I learned this week that the path the Israelites took in the sea was actually a semicircle. They ended up on the same shore. What? Well, you know, I think that's actually a very Jewish moment. Look, if you want to if you want to talk about Jewish moments, right? If you look, if we're going to situate ourselves in the situation properly, there's this flight from Egypt. The Israelites decide not to take the most direct route. Then Pharaoh changes his mind and pursues them. And the Israelites see the army of Pharaoh approaching, and they say to Moses, right? They actually kvetch to Moses. Was it for lack of graves in Egypt that you brought us out here into the wilderness to die? And on that note, by the way, many people debate what is the exact moment where the Israelites become a people. And I'd like to suggest it was probably right then. That's when Judaism, that's when Jews start. The edge of the sea, the Israelites are trapped. Nachshon ben Aminadav starts walking forward into the sea, and when he reaches this sort of level right around here, the sea splits. They escape, the Egyptians drown, it's a great big song, people are happy. Amalek shows up, is beaten back, it's all good. So I wanted to go back to that moment in Egypt, where the Israelites stand on the edge of the sea, trapped between Pharaoh's army and the waters. By the way, Nico spoke about this last night. I was very nervous at first, but great minds think alike is the way I'd like to think about it. But I have a different take, because I was thinking about this. The name of Egypt in Hebrew is, which means the narrow place, right? A derivative of that word tsar. And by the way, if we thought it was narrow before, trapped between the army and the sea, well, it's quite narrow now. And we have this line, right? Right as they're coming, Vayomer Moshe el ha'am al tirau, and Moses said to the people, have no fear, stand firm, and witness the deliverance which God will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. God will battle for you, all of you. Be silent. So I read a lot about the Parsha this week, but also this week I met a French rabbi who shared an idea I hadn't heard before from the Mechilta, from Midrash. And he says that Moses is addressing 4 groups of people. He's trying to cover the 4 reactions that the community has to this situation. There's a group of people who say, they look at the sea, they say, well, that's that. Let's just hurl ourselves into the sea. And there's a group of people who say, well, that's that. Let's just go back to Egypt. We'll be slaves again. And there's a group of people who say, well, that's that. Let's fight to the end. And then there's a group of people who say, well, that's that. Let's just call out to God. Let's call out to anyone. We'll cry. And the Midrash says, to the one who said, let us fall into the sea, Moses said to them, Al tirau, have no fear. Stand firm and witness the salvation of the Lord. And to the one who said, let's just go back to Egypt, he said, you shall never see them again. And to the one who said, let us fight to the end, he said to them, the Lord will fight for you. And to the one who said, let us cry out against them, he said to them, and you shall be silent. Nachshon was the only guy who got it right. Because, of course, what was the actual instruction? Go, walk to Sinai. And how do we do that? 1 foot in front of the other. You want to take a lesson from this week's Parsha? How do we get out of narrow places? 1 foot in front of the other. This is all well and good. It perhaps is even relevant to the current moment. But I heard something amazing this week as well. I was discussing with that same rabbi, and we mentioned Mitzrayim, right? I want to take another look at that word. Because mitzer in Hebrew, is anyone mitzer? Is a boundary. And perhaps because he was French, he casually translated it, this Mitzrayim Etzer, not as narrow place like we normally think about it, but as the boundaried place. Or he just said, well, like the comfort zone. The implications were staggering. I rocked back literally in my chair. Because when we read our Torah, our text, not at the sort of base levels of Pshat and Remez, but at the deeper, more abstract levels of Drash and Sod, of metaphor or the secret, we start to see something quite different. Our text says, you know, when you're forced to leave your comfort zone, there's 4 usual reactions. Give up and despair. Take the easy path of least resistance to stay comfortable. Struggle and thrash. Cry out in your pain and distress to others. And so I'm here to say, well, sometimes actually the right response to leaving your comfort zone is to put one foot in front of the other. Does anyone remember our concert earlier this year with Rabbi Dvorak Mintz? Actually, last year. Although she's coming back, I hear. And she sang a verse from Psalm 118. It was, Min hametzar karati ya, anani b'merchavia, which literally means, from the straits, the metzar, the narrow place, I cried out, and God answered me from a wide place. But with our new understanding, I want to offer a different reading of Psalm 118. From the comfort zone, I cried out, and God responded from the expanse, from the wide open places. Psalm 118, and the dilemma, I think, and this moment in the Parsha are the same question. Our comfort zones are not easy places to leave. Do we stay in our comfort zone? Do we despair, surrender, thrash, or bemoan? Or do we call out to God, a God who exists beyond the comfort zone, who calls us, invites us to spaces far wider where we too can expand and grow without those boundaries? And I feel, reading that, like my own response is that God exists far beyond the immediate present moment, the narrow space of my comfort zone. And I feel called, invited to call out, to put one foot in front of the other and await the answer. Shabbat Shalom.